Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavati Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. 19 to 23, please.
Deepo nivastataha nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanaha yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati sukhamatyantikam yatad buddhigrahyamatīndriyam vetti yatra na chaivayam sthitaschalati tatvatah yam labdhva cha param labham manyate nadhikam tatah yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sannitam sanishchayena yoktavyah yogo nirvinna chetasa.
Yesterday we concluded that one needs to qualify, prepare oneself to be able to get to a state where you can meditate and realize the self. In fact, if you have to understand the state of meditation, you could say it's the final gateway to self-realization. It's the last discipline one undertakes to reach the goal of enlightenment. That is the true purpose of dhyana, meditation. Now, the whole idea is to prepare oneself. See, people want to take on this discipline because they believe you'll become peaceful. It's going to help you if you follow these practices. It is just the opposite when we say that. When you take on to certain disciplines in life, whatever that is, which we will presently cover, then you become peaceful. You become contemplative. You become meditative. In fact, you don't practice meditation, you practice the disciplines. That will lead you, as we have seen from day one, it will lead you on that path. So the first thing that will happen is you become a better human. When we say that, your actions become better and better, moving from selfish to unselfish to selfless. So when you do that, what will happen is you will be an achiever. Remember we talked about Martin Luther King. He says even if you're sweeping a street, you should do it so well that you're respected for that. The way you do things makes a big difference. What is your attitude? It's not the big actions, it's the small daily actions that you perform. If you put yourself, your heart and soul into it, you're a different person. That's the first thing that will happen. And others will respect that. Because your actions speak for itself, the selflessness in your actions. So your actions become better and better. Your emotions. Today, we all have emotions. We have what we call love. But the love that we have has boundaries, is conditional. So you love those whom you like. You hate those whom you dislike. You may turn around and say, isn't that natural? How can you love somebody you dislike? That's why we analyzed our relationship with other creatures, animals. We understand the natures of different animals. Some we are comfortable, some could make us uncomfortable, some are dangerous. Yet the feelings we have for all creatures is the same. How come? How are you able to accommodate the different natures of different creatures? See, you've made an assessment and you've accepted them as they are, not what you want them to be. But strangely, we don't do this with relation to humans. There's a beautiful saying, and that is, happy and blessed hour when wickedness stands forth revealed as goodness bereft of a guide. I'll put it up on the screen for you. Morris Maeterlinck, happy and blessed hour when wickedness stands forth revealed as goodness bereft of a guide. So even when you see somebody wicked or something terrible happening, your first feeling should be, it is goodness without a guide. See, the whole feeling becomes noble. And you take corrective actions. That's all right. You can perform whatever actions you think is necessary. But it's not out of anger. It's not out of frustration. It's not out of hatred. There is no negative feeling. So that's how you improve your feeling. We talked about action. We're talking about feeling. Because all of us have emotions. But these emotions may not be pure. You're tainting your emotions with selfishness. So you've got to move out of that. It's an effort. It's a discipline at the mental level. And then at the intellectual level, we are not aiming to become scholars, but to have that vision, that idea, that there is something that binds us all together, some unifying entity in the diversity that we are experiencing. If you can tune into that, you have knowledge. That it's not being a scholar, it's not reading a lot of books or attending a lot of lectures and getting a lot of information to be able to impress people perhaps. But as a person, you remain the same. No, when we take up this knowledge and apply it to ourselves, we are able to see that unity in diversity. It changes our understanding completely. Now, these disciplines, when you follow, what will happen is your desires that you presently have. Remember, we are still talking about the yogi. How is he different from a bhogi? A bhogi is one who is enamored by the world, who's carried away by the world, the enchantments, the temptations. And he believes, this is life. I've got to get maximum from the world. And he does everything to do so. Get more and more and more. And we've already analyzed. The more you get, the more you want. Nobody is really satisfied. So we're not saying stop that. We're only saying while you do it, change your attitude. It's not what you do in life that matters, but how you do it, why you do it. So, when you take up these disciplines, the desires that you presently have starts reducing. So when your desires reduce, there are no mental agitations caused by unfulfilled desires. See, as long as you have desires, it's only when you satisfy them will you be happy. You want a beautiful home. When you get the house, you'll be happy. Until then, there is an anxiety. When will I get it? When will I get it? It's getting finished. I want to do it. Oh, there's so much of work. You're not happy until you move in. So it is only when you satisfy the desire, you feel a sense of completion, a sense of satisfaction. Now, what does it mean? As long as you have unfulfilled desires, the mind will remain agitated. And at every stage in life, you have certain desires that are not fulfilled. Therefore, everybody goes through mental agitations. So we say, we can't get away from desires because we have them. You can't give up desires. It's not possible. Then what can you do with your desires? Act in a way, go through these disciplines in a way that the desires slowly get eliminated. So as your desires get eliminated, there comes a peace of mind that is permanent. So that is the way to go until you reach a state where you have very few desires left. And what are those desires? You're only interested in doing something good, something noble, or I must find out the truth of life. All the subtlest desires, that's all you have. Because everything else has got dissolved with the life that you have led, a disciplined life. You know, why I'm mentioning it is, you go to a temple, you take a coconut. Yes? No? You do, right? And how do you take? It's not that full nariyal that you take. You take a coconut and remove all the fibers except one little tuft. Why that little tuft? Now, nobody asks that question. Now, these coils, that coconut represents the human personality. Outside, it's so smooth. But when you remove the outer skin, they're full of coils, all entangled. That is the state of mind, full of desires, agitations, worries, anxiety. Outside, you're all beautiful, beautifully attired, beautifully presented, very pleasant externally. Internally, there are a lot of coils. So by leading this disciplined life, you remove all those coils except a few. Those desires. To do what? To find out the truth. To become a better human. So these are the finest desires that you can have. Just those desires you keep. And then what do? You don't have the arrogance to say, I can take care of myself. Then what do? Go to a temple. Who is in a temple? The priest. You don't have access to the sanctum sanctorum. It's only the priest. Why? Because he's in constant contact with the Lord, as it were. All symbolic. So there is a teacher, there is a guru. It could be in the form of a book. It could be a person. It could be anything that guides you to the ultimate truth, which you have no access to. So when you go to a temple, you give the coconut to the priest. Meaning, you surrender to that particular direction that you get. There's no arrogation that I'll find my way. You've got to surrender the ego, because that will prevent you from getting to the final state. And when you get there, the priest takes the coconut and breaks it. You don't do it yourself, which you can do it. But that, again, it's symbolic. He helps you, the teacher or the guide or the spiritual literature helps you break the hard shell of the ego. And he removes that last tuft, throws it away. What is revealed is the 3 dots. The 3 dots means there is a third dimension to your vision. See, we are all looking at the world with 2 eyes, 2 fleshy eyes. But when you gain the knowledge, when you break the hard shell of the ego, what is exposed is the pure inner self. That's the white part, with the help of the guide. And then you have that vision. It's called Jnana Chakshu, the eye of wisdom. Now people take it literally and think there's an eye here and even draw something, it looks terrible. And even if you search, there is no eye there. It's all symbolic. And that is the way you get to the highest truth. So I'll put it on the screen for you, the 3 paths that will take you to the ultimate truth. So here you are, the path of action, path of devotion, path of knowledge. I'm only revising what we already said. So when you follow these paths, it reduces your desires. You come to a stage where you have very few desires left, and that is the time when your mind is relatively peaceful at all times. That qualifies you to meditate, and through meditation, you reach the final goal of self-realization. So this is the way to go. Now, what you must realize in this chapter, I'm going to quickly do that before we get on to the portion today. Right from the first verse, he repeats again and again, which we may have missed. He says, Sanyasta sankalpaha. You got to renounce the thought lava. Without that, you cannot progress on this path. See, our thoughts run into the world. Lava, like a volcano, is constantly erupting. Similarly, our thoughts, from the time you wake up in the morning, the thoughts are running into the world constantly. You can't prevent it. But with a life of discipline, you have a control over your own thoughts. Where are they going? Do I need to think about this? Do I need to do that? You are able to control your thought flow. So starting with that, he goes on, one who is not attached to sense objects or actions has renounced all thoughts. I'm only repeating what we have already covered. Who is self-controlled, who is balanced in pairs of opposites. You remember heat and cold, honor and dishonor, pleasure and pain. You got to be balanced. So these are all the various conditions that he gives out. I'm not mentioning all of them because that will take us a long time. But throughout these verses, right up to the 18th verse that we concluded yesterday, he says a perfectly controlled mind is required, which is free from desires. And that will happen only when you lead a life of discipline. Your actions, your emotions, your thoughts. If you so much as spend your day, see, you don't have to change what you're doing, your actions, but it's your attitude and actions. You don't have to change your feelings, but your attitude in your feelings. You don't have to change what you're studying, but your attitude in whatever knowledge you gain. If you change that, which is within your control, then you're able to reduce desires, become peaceful, qualified to meditate and realize. So that's what we concluded yesterday, and we get on to the topic today. 19th verse, please.
Yatha deepo nivatastha nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanah yatha deepo nivatastha nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanah.
With the 19th verse, we get into the third topic, and this topic is talking about how a controlled mind remains peaceful. See, we all want peace. We all want to be happy. So what are we doing to be peaceful? What are we doing to be happy? We believe that if we find something in this world that gives us happiness, then we're all right. So you want things, you want objects of the world to make you happy. You want people around you to make you happy. It's almost impossible to convince you, look, it is not in the objects and beings that you find happiness. It is your own mind. It's how you view this world. See, the world being the same, one person says it's a great world to live in. Another person says it's a terrible world. Now, who's right? Who's wrong? Once, Lord Krsna, he called upon Duryodhana. Duryodhana, you understand who he is? Who was Duryodhana? He was a Kaurava prince and known to be an evil-minded person. That was Duryodhana. He called upon Duryodhana and said, I've got a job for you. What is it? Please find me one good person in this world. He told Duryodhana, who is an evil-minded person, please find me one good person in this world for a job. Duryodhana said, that's all? He said, that's it. So Duryodhana set into this world looking for a good person. On the other hand, he called upon Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira, the Pandava prince, was known, in simple language, a good person. He called upon Yudhishthira, who was a good person. And what did he ask Yudhishthira? He said, Yudhishthira, I need you to do me a favor. What is it? What can I do for you? Please find me one evil person in this world. You get the picture? So both Duryodhana and Yudhishthira both went into the world looking for what Krishna had asked them. And you know what happened? Both came back unsuccessful. Duryodhana comes back and says, hey Krishna, what a job you gave me. Find a good man? Each fellow is a crook in this world. There is not one good fellow in this world. Everyone is bad. Said Duryodhana. And Yudhishthira comes back and says something similar. Krishna, how can you ask me to find a bad person? People are good, Everybody is so helpful. Everybody is so nice. It's not possible to find a bad person. Same world. There's a saying, what Peter speaks of Paul speaks more of Peter than of Paul. What you speak of another person, it speaks about you, not the other person, as much. So this being the case, whether it is happiness or sorrow, whether it is right or wrong, why do you see it so much? Because that is exactly what you have. Therefore, he says, you've got to look within. You've got to look into your own personality. That's what you're given this life for. You're born a human being because you've got this chance of what? Finding out who you are, how to improve yourself, how to become a better human, and why not reach the state of perfection. Nobody is stopping you except yourself. So that's what we need to understand in this opportunity that we have called life. It's a beautiful opportunity. Now, some people have a better start, some people have a not so good start, but that should not disturb your pursuit. It's a question of time. One person may take more time, one person may take less time. So what? It doesn't matter. As long as you're moving in the right direction, you're becoming more and more peaceful, more and more happy. So I'll share with you one or two ideas so that you understand. It's not just the Bhagavad Gita. Even the Western thinkers, the Ramona Anderson, American, she says, people spend a lifetime searching for happiness, looking for peace. They chase idle dreams, addictions, religions, even other people, hoping to fill the emptiness that plagues them. The irony is the only place they needed to search was within. See, what you're searching is not in the world, it is within you. That is what you essentially are. Now you have unnecessarily picked up some things from the world which you are not, and you suffer because of that. It's like health is your original physical stature. Do you all understand that? your normal state of the body is to be healthy. When you contact diseased germs, you lose your health. Your health goes down. Then what do? You go to a doctor. What can a doctor do? He gives you medicine. All right. What can medicine do? Medicine, please note, can only remove disease. Medicine cannot give you health. When disease is removed, what remains is your original physical state, your health. Of course, you need the medicine not for health, to remove disease. Similarly, your original stature is to be peaceful, blissful. That is your original state of mind. If you say, I'm not happy, if you say, I'm worried, I'm anxious, I'm stressed, I'm strained, it is not a natural state. It's like disease. So what must you do? All you need to do is to remove agitations. What remains is your original state of mind, which is peaceful, blissful. So it's not that the world is giving you peace. By meeting somebody or by getting something, the agitation sees. What remains is your original state of mind, peace and bliss. But today, you are finding that peace, you're finding that happiness by quietening your agitations, because your mind is always agitated. So one person finds peace by meeting somebody. Agitation ceases, temporarily. Another person wants to smoke. Another person finds it in a drink. A third person says on a holiday. A fourth person. Each one is trying to quieten the agitation. Now what we are saying is, that is temporary. How long can you quieten the agitation? How long can you go on a holiday? How long can you be happy in your home? New home, fine. Afterwards it becomes boring. Everything gives you a kick initially. And then it goes off. That initial happiness is gone. That pleasure is gone. This is the nature of happiness that you find in the world. But what he's saying is, that happiness that you seek is within. If you learn to find it within yourself, you are independent of the world. You may or may not have things, but you're happy. Of course, when you meet good things and good people, you will be happy, but you're not dependent. Today you're dependent. Your happiness is dependent. If something happens to whatever you're dependent on, you're finished, you're miserable, you're finished. You'll be depressed. Nobody can help you. That's not a human being. That's the life of an animal. That's the life of a plant. A human being is designed to be independent. And that will happen when you discipline yourself. So what happens here in the 19th verse, he says, as a lamp in a windless place does not flicker. So a lamp that is protected by a glass case does not flicker, even if there's wind. That simile reflects a yogi with subdued mind practicing union with the self. So if you practice the disciplines, what will happen is, the disciplines work like a glass case, protecting you against the winds, meaning the changes, the passions that can upset your mind. So it controls the mind. So the lamp is your mind. The wind is your passions. Today the passions, meaning your likes, your dislikes, your ambitions, your wishes, your wants, your desires, your demands, all that can agitate you, disturb you. But when you lead a life of discipline, that becomes a protection to hold your mind in place. And when your mind is steady, it gives light, meaning the lamp gives light. Your intellect is clear. So your mind is calm, your intellect is clear. Thereafter, whatever you do, you will be efficient, you will be productive because you got clarity. You will be successful and your mind is peaceful. You get two things in one go. with all the discipline that you practice. And he continues.
Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati.
When the mind, restrained by the practice of yoga, comes to rest, and when seeing the self, capital, which means the highest, alone by the self, that is your individuality, is satisfied in the self. So, now what he's saying is, the mind is completely controlled. Now, I don't know what you understand by that. It's very important. We're talking about control and control all the time. And some of you may say, I don't want that restriction on me. I want to be free. Now, when we say control, people understand it as denial. See, self-control is not self-denial. Self-denial, if you deny yourself, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. See, there are, I think in all religions, there are certain practices. Now, I'm not commenting on those practices, but you got to have eyes to see what's happening. And again, it is not criticism. You got to learn from what you see. See, there are people who take up vows, you know, and for one long month, they lead a life of denial. They will restrict themselves with food. They will restrict themselves with engagement in the world. Cannot see this, cannot do that, cannot eat this, cannot. They put their restrictions on themselves until they go to the place of worship. So this, they take a vow. We're not saying it's right or wrong, but what happens? Have you got over anything? Have you controlled yourself? See, for 1 month you deny. And on the last day when you finish going to the place of worship, you come back and indulge. In fact, you make up for all the time that you lost. Now my point is, what have you achieved? What have you achieved except denying yourself? In fact, you're frustrated. Internally, there is frustration. See, it's not only this. You look at the lives of sports persons. Slim and trim. They maintain themselves so well because if they don't, they cannot perform. Not to talk of actors and actresses. You see them, they're picture perfect. Their height, their weight, everything, their skin, everything is perfect. As long as they are employed. The moment they stop engagement in action, you see their condition. See, if you have eyes to see, you will see it. Therefore, what does it mean? They have led a life of self-denial. So the first chance they get, they go all out and indulge in such a way that they could kill themselves. That's the way they function. Now, you don't have to go to extremes. All they are saying is, look, if you are sensible, if you are an intelligent person, if you are a wise person, you may not go into extremes. Little by little, day by day, have that control. Okay, teach yourself. I must, see, first of all, I said, in an Indian context, nobody cares for the body. And let us start with taking care of our bodies. What's so difficult about that? It's a little bit of discipline. How many coffees do you have in a day? I'm not asking, don't tell me. Do you need it? Ask yourself, do I need it? Okay, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, period. Any time you go to anybody's house, chai piyoge? Kafi mein? Haan, zarur. And then with the tea comes the biscuits. Now why do you have to have the biscuit? Unnecessary. You eat it, and who suffers? You suffer. All the extra is in you, which you don't need. It's a simple exercise. That's why when people went up to Swami Vivekananda for spiritual advice, you know what he told them? Go play football. Get active, man. If you sit like this, what spirituality will you get? So in the academy, we have a jogging track, we have a gymnasium. They say, what sort of an ashram is this? This is not an ashram, this is a university. Because you don't expect, if you take up spiritual life, then you just sit in one place and let everything come to you. No master gets up. So our Swami is a I don't know what, strange Swami. First of all, he doesn't have a beard. And then he is very active. You can't be active. You got to sit and everybody comes and serves you. Then you are a Swami. You don't pick up your own plate. Even in your own home. So 10 people have to do things for you. Why can't we be active? Don't worry about spirituality. Day-to-day discipline. What you can see, why can't we correct? See, why they say that is, Suchi is a quality of a devotee. Suchi means cleanliness, to be clean. What does it mean? Keep your environment clean. Your homes are not clean. Your rooms are, I know, the living room is perfect. Go to the bedroom, terrible condition. And if you make a mistake of opening the cupboard, finished. Everything will fall on you. Over the cupboard, under the bed, under the table, everywhere, if there is an open space, stuff it. It shows the state of mind. How can you be peaceful when there is no concept of cleanliness? It's a baggage, extra baggage everywhere. So the desires are also there in your mind. It reflects the state of mind. So these disciplines you can start. That's why they say physically you must be fit to take on to spiritual disciplines. Otherwise, it's not possible. So you can't have a person who is not at all conscious of the body to be conscious of the mind. If you can't be aware of what you can see, how can you be aware of what you can't see? So you've got to train yourself. That's what he means. When he talks about control, it is not denial. It is an intelligent regulation of your day-to-day activities. Not too much, not too little. Don't pick up unnecessary things. See, we listen to what? How we love to listen to gossip. Huh? I don't know if you know. Have you heard of the Kardashians? You all know. How are we connected to Kardashians? But they have the biggest following. The biggest following in America they have. People are glued, watching what they do in a family. Who married whom, who's going out with whom, who broke up with whom, what are they wearing, what are they not wearing, all sorts of things. You're filling your mind with this information that you don't need, when you could have used that time and effort for something more sensible. So this is what he means. Regulate your life in a way that you're smart, you're intelligent, you're using your time sensibly. That's when your mind will be controlled, not otherwise. So he says, when the mind restrained by the practice of yoga, yoga again in the context means a path to first of all becoming a better human, and the same path that will take you to the ultimate goal of perfection. That is yoga. And then comes to rest, the mind comes to rest, becomes peaceful. And when seeing the self in the context means you're getting nearer and nearer your original state. And then you become satisfied, because that is your real state, to be peaceful, to be blissful. Continues.
Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyamatīndriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sthitaschalati tatvatah sukhamatyantikam yatad बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियं वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः.
When he knows the supreme bliss, B is in capital again. See, wherever you see the capital, remember he's talking about the ultimate state. There is that ultimate state of perfection. I'm reiterating that 0 to 100. You remember that graph we spoke about? Graph of human development. From 0 to a state of perfection. You go all the way. So what did Christ or Krishna, Muhammad or Buddha, Mahavira, all these great souls, what did they achieve? They were humans. We are humans. What's the difference? They hit the 100th mark. We have no clue that there is such a thing as perfection. And that you're given this opportunity called life to find that direction and get there. Now, if some of you say, this is all very well said, but I am not interested. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with my family. I'm happy with my money. I'm happy with my enjoyment. It's okay. I came for today to find out what does the Gita say. That's all. But I'm getting back to my life. Think again. I'll give you an example which we use very often in this classroom. So I'll request those who have heard the example to just observe. Let's give a chance to others to answer what I'm going to be asking so that you understand the importance of this path. Okay? Now, what we're saying is everyone, every human ought to utilize this opportunity called life to find his true self, her true self. That's why you're born into this world. Anything else you do is a waste of time. But you have to do it. It has a temporary value, but not a permanent value. So you need to fulfill your obligations as a means to an end, not an end in itself. Most of us take up our duties and obligations as an end. That is where we are going wrong. So what is the end? The end is to discover who you essentially are. And you don't realize something which we are going to presently say. Imagine a coil spring. You understand? A coil spring. I'm addressing those who have not heard it. Okay? A coil spring 4 feet high. Are you with me? You understand? A coil spring. If I compress it to 1 foot, what do you think happens to my palm? There's a pressure. Urging my palm which way? Only one way. Please note. Please note this. There is a pressure urging my palm only one way, upward. So I release it to 2 feet. What happens now? The pressure is less, right? I release it to 3 feet, still less pressure. Now I release it to 4 feet. Are we all in agreement? At 4 feet, there is no pressure. I repeat, coil spring 4 feet high, compress it to 1 foot, tremendous pressure, urging my palm only one way, upward. 2 feet, less pressure. 3 feet, still less pressure. 4 feet, no pressure. Why is there no pressure at 4 feet? Why? Simple. It has reached its original state. Are you all understanding this? It's a simple example. Now please understand, friends, as long as that coil spring is not in its original state, it will be under pressure. As long as it's not in its original state. And the moment it moves towards its original state only, the pressure will become less. If it goes the other way, pressure will become more. Friends, all of us are going through pressures. Everybody has pressures, worries, anxiety. Of course, you got your reasons. I am pressurized because. Not because of me, of course. It's never you. Somebody else is the cause. But you are going through pressures. Now, nobody realizes that I am pressurized not because of the world, because I'm not in my original state, number one. Number 2, I am not moving towards my original state. I'm doing everything that is taking me away. So the pressures are more, anxiety is more, worry is more, stress is more, everything is more. We have no clue where we are going. So the Bhagavad Gita is a wake-up call. It says, you're a human. Please find out what is that path that will set the direction right so that the pressures become less, 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 and you hit your original state. That is peace and bliss. That's what he's saying. When he knows that supreme bliss, which is your original state, which can be grasped by the intellect. So what is the tool a human being has that no other creature has to get there? Buddhi. And that's why Swamiji had to write that book, The Fall of the Human Intellect, because he said if there's one reason why people are suffering in this world, whether individually or a family or a society, community, collectively people are suffering, there is only one reason. If only we could have a case study, we can prove it. The one reason why anybody in the world suffers, we're not asking you why you're suffering. No reasons asked. But there is only one reason why. Because humans have lost the use of the intellect. That's why Swamiji wrote that book. That's the first book. If anybody's interested to start the direction, you got to read that book. Because it is like a mirror. You see yourself in completion when you read that book. And then you know what to do. It's like if there's a blemish on your face, I've just got to hold the mirror. I don't have to tell you remove it. You know it's a blemish. It's not supposed to be there. You will take care of itself. But unless somebody shows it to you, you don't know what's going on. So similarly, this book is an eye-opener for anyone who wants to understand the importance of the intellect in this pursuit of finding your own self, which transcends the senses, it's beyond the senses, this peace and bliss that you're seeking, wherein established, once you get a taste of that happiness, you never move from that reality. You will never compromise for anything less. Continues.
Yam labdhva cha param labham manyate nadhikam tatah yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Yam labdhva cha param labham manyate nadhikam tatah yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate.
And having obtained which he thinks no other gain superior to it, wherein established he is not moved even by great sorrow. So once you get that confidence, you're moving towards the higher, all the little things that bothered you earlier will never ever bother you. It's something like this. See, all of us went through various stages in life. At one time we were children playing with toys. How important were those toys to you when you were a child? Please go back and think. When you were a child, that was so important. That was your life. That was your world. If a toy were to break, your heart would break. You would be crying. Nobody can even help you because that toy is broken. That is the value you had for your own toys. Now what has happened? What happened to those toys? Even as an example, when I'm giving you, you really have to go back. You'll say, oh, that was like last Janma it was. So far back. You don't even remember what you went through then. Now that you have become an adult, you have grown out of the toy world, those toys have no meaning for you. What difference does it make to you? Even on a Sunday, your children in the house, or there could be some other neighbor's children, come with some toys and they say, please come and play with us, please come and play. And you say, all right, these children, they want me to play with them, I'll come back. You say that and go and play. what is the value you have for that play? You play with the children. You say, and sometimes these children, when they play games, they cheat because they want to win. And you allow them to win. And you have to lose. Oh, yeah, you're a good player. I'm a bad. I don't know how to play this. You're willing to do all that because you have absolutely no value for what they value. You've grown out of it. But now, as an adult, it's a natural growth. Now, as an adult, you've got caught in another world. You have different toys now. It's not those toys. What are your toys? Name, fame, money, position, status, recognition, honor. I don't know. Whatever you value today. These are your toys. Now, if anybody were to interfere with these toys, you're finished. That's where you are right now. But what the subject says is, just as a child grows out of it by understanding a better quality of life when you become an adult, as an adult you get stuck because you can't think of anything beyond what your present values are. So this subject gives you far, far higher values. If you learn to appreciate these values of, higher values of life, which are universal values for all humans across the globe, then this present world that you are stuck in, that you have so much value for, you move out of. So it's not that you get away from the world. You are still, like on a Sunday you play with the children. Similarly, you have to play about in this world. Whatever it offers you, you have to fulfill your duties and obligations. All that you do, but with a big difference. It's like an actor on stage. An actor could be a king on stage. Actually, he's a pauper. He has to get auto rickshaw to go back home. But on the stage, he's a king. He's just playing his role, knowing fully well he has to get vada pav and go home. He's not a king. But he plays his role so well. You are convinced how majestic he is. Look at the way he walks. You're convinced. He plays his role knowing fully well he's somebody else. Similarly, we have to play our roles in this world perfectly, knowing there is something else we have to understand about ourselves. So, having obtained which, if you get there, he thinks no other gain superior. You got that maturity. You got that inner strength. So, there could be gain, there could be loss. You take it in your stride. You become a strong personality. And wherein established, he is not moved even by a great sorrow. So any toy breaks, you're not broken. Some profit, some loss, some honor, some dishonor. Sometimes you're on top, sometimes you push down. You understand that's the world. Today people are looking up to you. Tomorrow the same people may bring you down. Not that you suspect people, but you're prepared for that change. That is the maturity that you will have. Next verse.
Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanyitam sanishchayena yoktavyaha yogo nirvinna chetasa tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanyitam sanishchayena yoktavyaha yogo nirvinna chetasa.
Let that be known as the yoga of severance from union with pain. This is poetry. We'll understand what he's saying. That yoga should be practiced with determination and with an undespairing mind. So first of all, he says, if you want to improve, if you want to change the quality of your life, you have to practice these disciplines with determination. You wake up tomorrow. Don't wait for, very nice, I'm planning to do this. When? That time will never come. Tomorrow, start your disciplines. Go home. and take that call. He's saying you've got to be determined. Start your work tomorrow. Nothing's stopping you except our favorite quality, tamas. Tamas, that lethargy. Karenge, dekhenge. I mean, where is the hurry? There's no hurry. That attitude kills us. See, the youngster will do it not tomorrow, he'll do it tonight. He'll start now. That is the determination of a young person. But an older person has no energy to think when to start. That's why even in the academy the average age is 24. Because the youngsters, they need this knowledge. They must know how to live life. What's the point in learning how to live when you've already finished with everything? I'm not saying you're most welcome, because if you don't come, I'll be talking to empty chairs here. Please come. I have to talk to somebody. But this knowledge is meant for the young, because it gives you a way of life. So he says, you've got to practice with determination and undespairing mind. Not getting, I tried this for 6 months, nothing happened. Despair. It's like going to a gym for 1 week, same weight. What all you're putting into that body you're not seeing? How can it change the weight? Physical fitness, 75% is diet. 25% is exercise. So we exercise, and then say, today I exercise, I can eat a lot. So you remain the same, if at all you put on weight. Only addition is gymnasium you're going to feel good, to feel justified to eat. That's the only reason. You're going for a walk in the morning and now I can eat. Or if you go to a party and overeat, next morning I have to go for a walk, to offload what I ate. So that you prepare yourself for the next party. That's the only mission we have in life, to eat. So he says, undespairing mind. You may fail, but pick yourself up and move. In philosophy, see, everybody will fall. Nobody is perfect. Nobody can become a Christ overnight, as they say. So you will make mistakes. You will say, okay, this is a great thing, and then forget about it. So you will fall. So what the philosophy says is, you will fall. Let's be practical. Let's be honest. Nobody is going to walk out of this classroom perfect. We'll be the same people that we came in as. But if you try, you may fall. He says, fall like a rubber ball. Hit the bottom and come up again. Don't fall like a piece of lead and stay there. Any number of times you fall, you say, I made a mistake, I've got to get back. I made a mistake, I've got to get back. If you have that determination and undespairing mind, he says, you will be free. He says, severance from union with pain. The first thing that will happen is you remain unaffected. You may not enjoy that positive bliss, but you will be free from relative agitations. So that's the first sign that you're on the right path. And then he says you've got to continue on that path.
Sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvan sheshatah manasaivendriya gramam viniyamya samantatah. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvan sheshatah manasaivendriya gramam viniyamya samantatah.
Abandoning without reserve all desires born of sankalpa, thoughts, and completely restraining the group of senses from all quarters by the mind. So now there is determination. You want to get on to the path. You will have to keep applying yourself. See, a good news is, no matter who you are, no matter what your desires are, in fact, they say each one is born with certain qualities. Everyone is born with what we call vasanas. Vasanas are nothing but your innate tendencies and qualities. So each one has to face his own nature. You have no choice. But as a human, you're given a unique capacity, and that's called Purushartha. Purushartha means the capacity to exercise self-effort, unconnected to the type of person you are. It's like, even if you are in deep debts, don't you have the capacity to earn? So what happens is, if you exercise that capacity to earn, you can slowly remove your debts. Now, when will you be out of debts? It depends on how deep your debts are and how much you're exercising the effort to earn. So if you exercise very little effort and the debts are very deep, it takes a time. If your effort is phenomenal, then it wipes out much faster. But what you must understand, the capacity to earn is irrespective of your debts. Similarly, it doesn't matter how many minus points you have, or negativities you have, or worries and anxieties that you have right now. You've got the capacity to grow out of it, provided you lead the life of discipline. So what we can do is apply ourselves sincerely every day. If you do that, it's a question of time that you will be able to come out of it. But it cannot be achieved without abandoning all desires. You can't go by your mind. You will have to go by your intellect. The intellect has to guide you. The mind will take you in different directions. See, what you like is not necessarily what you should do, according to yourself. So if you follow your mind, it could take you in a direction that is not correct for you. So you have to listen to your own conviction. You have to listen to your own intellect. So you know, I am overweight. How do you know? Stand on a weighing scale, look at the mirror. You know it. You don't need somebody to tell you. Since you know that, what is your determination to get out? What is preventing you? Nothing, except your indifference. If you are indifferent, forget spirituality. Forget life. Life itself will be terrible. So you want a quality life, you can't be indifferent. You've got to exercise that effort. So abandoning without reserve. Don't be guided by your own mind, by your desires. They will not guide you properly. It's your intellect that will help you. And then you can restrain the senses from all quarters of the mind with the intellect. And he continues.
Shanai shanai ruparamet buddhya dhriti grihitaya atma samstham manah kritva na kinchidapi chintayet shanai shanai ruparamet buddhya dhriti grihitaya atma samstham manah kritva na kinchidapi chintayet.
Another famous verse. It says, little by little let him withdraw by the intellect held firm. You see the guidance that is given to us using the intellect. You've got to use your intellect, because that alone has the capacity to control the rest of your personality. So little by little, you can't achieve anything overnight. See, even when you go to a hospital, they give you drips. Why can't they pour it into you? You will collapse. It has to be given little by little, and then you develop strength. Even irrigation, they call it drip irrigation. Why drip irrigation? Flood the whole place with water. Everything will die. You can't do it. Any development needs time. You cannot do it in a hurry. You've got to be patient. You've got to be perseverant. You've got to be determined. You've got to be consistent. Now that's tough. You want extremes. Extremes are very easy. But extremes will never help you. It has a shelf life. What is difficult is to do it every day, little by little, and then you get that control. So he says, little by little, let him withdraw by the intellect held firm. Having established the mind in the self, let him not think of anything else. So it's not only for general discipline. Let's not forget the chapter. He's talking about the final stage of meditation. So to get there, you've disciplined yourself, but when you sit in the seat of meditation, it's not just thinking of anything you want. The mind is repeating the mantra, Om, Om. Like I mentioned, mind is a flow of thought. So the thought will repeat. That is the mind. But it's not going on its own. The intellect is conscious of the repetition. So there is Om, silence, Om, silence, Om, silence. The intellect is doing its job. What is the intellect doing? It's watching the flow of mind. So if the mind goes anywhere else, it will bring it back. Otherwise, you can let the mind go wherever it wants. It's like daydreaming. See, even a lover thinks of the loved one all the time. He's not meditating. He's not even concentrating. Why? Because there's no buddhi at all. If he had a buddhi, he will not think of her. Because the buddhi has fallen asleep, the mind is going on its own. That's how he makes the commitment. Later on he regrets. That's no use. See, two fellows were talking. One chap said, you know, my wife is an angel, man. Other fellow said, you're lucky, mine is still alive. Another fellow says, you know, I had no luck with both my wives. Why? What happened? The first one left me, and second one did not leave me. So anything you face, you regret, because the mind, intellect is not working. If the intellect functions, you will know who you're selecting, and once you've made the choice, you know what to expect. Otherwise, it's more of an imaginary person, and then you say, this is not the person I married. Intellect has to be alert all the time. So that stage where you come to the seat of meditation, the mind is aware of the mantra, the intellect is aware of sound and silence. Because the intellect's job is to be able to distinguish right from wrong, good from bad, day from night, war from peace, joy from sorrow. That is what the intellect does. So in a seat of meditation, what is it differentiating? Sound, silence, sound, silence. So the intellect is there, the mind is chanting. That's what he's saying. Let him not think of anything else. Let him not be distracted by anything else. He continues.
Yato nishcharati manaschanchalamasthiram tatastato niyam yaitad atmanyeva vasham nayet yato nishcharati manaschanchalamasthiram tatastato niyam yaitad atmanyeva vasham nayet.
By whatever cause the unsteady and restless mind wanders away, restraining it from that, let him bring it under the control of the self alone. So we've already covered that. He says, the mind will be what it is. That is the nature of the mind. Restless, asthiram, and chanchalam. Unsteady and restless. This is the nature of the mind. It's like a child. See, even in a full-grown, mature adult, the mind behaves like a child. But the child has no capacity to control because it has not yet developed the intellect. An adult, it's assumed, has developed the intellect, therefore the mind can be controlled relatively better than a child. That's why an adult has always to be around a child. You never leave a child alone. Why? Because the child may harm itself. So you always need an adult in attendance. Similarly, the child in you is your mind. If you leave the mind to itself, it can destroy you. It can take you in different directions. So the intellect must always be in attendance. just as an adult is in attendance of a child. So he says, by whatever cause, if the mind strays away, the intellect brings it back and puts it on track. That's the discipline given out in this verse. And he continues.
Prashanta manasam hyenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahma bhutamakalmasham. Prashanta manasam hyenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahma bhutamakalmasham.
Verily, supreme bliss comes to this yogi whose mind is perfectly tranquil, whose passion is calmed, who is sinless and has become Brahman. Now, what he's saying is, you reach that state of supreme bliss. Who reaches that state? This yogi who has been preparing himself. In fact, not in this chapter, from the 3rd chapter. Remember we said every chapter has a theme, has a message. So starting from the 3rd chapter, in fact the 2nd chapter of the Gita gives the highest philosophy, Sankhya Yoga. That's the 2nd chapter. Not to worry, but we're saying it's a build-up. So from the 3rd chapter, all the practices and messages have been given. Assumption is you're following it. And even in this chapter, he talked about the external and internal disciplines. And then he talked about how the yogi slowly, shanai shanai, little by little, with determination and putting in effort daily. You've got to put in that effort. Discipline yourself at the physical level, at the emotional level, at the intellectual level. Every part, let's assume you're doing. Then you come to the stage where you will get supreme bliss, because the mind is tranquil. So 3 points he gives here. Shanta Rajasam. What is Shanta Rajasam? Passions have been calmed. What are the passions? Passions of the body. Body has demands. I want this, I want that. The body wants so many things. Now you don't listen to the body. The body must listen to you. So you're not a slave to the demands of your senses. You have perfect control over the demands of your body. So in that sense, you have crossed the temptations of the gross body. That is Shanta Rajasam. Then Prashanta Manasam. Prashanta Manasam, mind is perfectly tranquil because the desires have been reduced. With all the disciplines, your desires are reduced. Unfulfilled desires cause agitations. Now that has been reduced, therefore you cross the subtle body. This is the gross body. Subtle body is within you. That also you have control. So the mind is perfectly tranquil. Then he uses the word akalmasham. Akalmasham means sinless. Now what does that mean? Sin in the context means you don't have mental agitations caused by unfulfilled desires. So when you have crossed your desires, when you have dissolved your desires, I think we've discussed enough to show that your desires are dissolved by a disciplined life, then you have no desires or vasanas, almost nil. So you've crossed the causal body. So you don't have to worry about these terms, but there is something beyond your physical body, mind and intellect, which is your nature, your vasanas. Unmanifest desires. Even a baby that is born with desires, unmanifest. You see the manifestation as the child grows up. You say, oh, this child is going to be a doctor. That child is going to be an engineer. Oh, this one is very good with music. From where did they come? Vasanas start manifesting as desires, as inclinations, as actions. So all that will be crossed when you follow all the disciplines. And when you have crossed the gross body, subtle body, causal body, such a person becomes Brahman. That's that final gateway. Through meditation, you reach the final state of perfection. Next verse.
Yunjannevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamashnute. Yunjannevam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha sukhena brahma samsparsham atyantam sukhamashnute.
Thus, constantly practicing union with the self, the yogi, freed from sin, easily attains the infinite bliss of contact with Brahman. So if you remember, in the 23rd verse, he said, there is severance from sorrow. He doesn't talk about positive bliss. But he says, if you follow these disciplines, you will be free from agitations. So it is, you could say, a negative aspect. You know, in the Ramayana, when Sita was carried away by Ravana, she refused to enter the golden palace and sat in Ashokavanam. So what is the meaning, the choice of word? Why Ashokavanam? Shoka is sorrow. Shoka is sorrow. Ashoka, non-sorrow. So she refused to indulge in the pleasures and stayed away. She had been separated from Lord Rama. When she was with the Lord, whether in the palace or in the jungle, she was in bliss. But when she was conquered by the 10-headed monster, see, Ravana has 10 heads. What is the 10-headed monster? Nothing but your own 5 senses and organs of action, your own demands. You become a victim of your own demands. So even though she slipped because she crossed the Lakshmana Rekha, then she was captured. As long as she was within that Rekha, the Lakshmana Rekha, protected, nobody could touch her. Nothing could touch her. But the moment she stepped out, the moment you compromise, you become a victim. Even then, don't fall like a piece of lead, fall like a rubber ball. She refused to identify with those pleasures and stayed away from the 10-headed monster in Ashokavanam. So that is 23rd verse. If you refuse to indulge in things that will bring you sorrow, ultimately, you may not enjoy, like you say, all the others are enjoying. They are partying and partying. Look at me, struggling every morning to study and go for the gym and doing this. How long will they party? See, you are sacrificing. But this sacrifice will bring in permanent joy. In the beginning, it's like poison. You feel you're missing out, but you don't realize you will have a complete life, a full life, a life full of joy and bliss forever. You don't see it now. That's why most people run for the world. They don't want to live a life of discipline because that's terrible. You miss out, you miss out. But if you lead a life of discipline, it is ashoka, no doubt. But here he says, constantly practicing that sort of life, you will get freed from sin, no agitation, and attain the infinite bliss of contact with Brahman. Meaning, you get back to your original state. One last thought before you go. I did say that health is your original physical stature. Similarly, peace and bliss is the original state of your mind. You can never be comfortable if you are unhappy. Okay, how much disease can the body take? See, beyond a point, you'll be hospitalized. Because the body can't handle ill health. Even after taking medicines, if the body is not able to handle ill health, they put you in ICU. Because something has to help you maintain the health. Right? But if you're healthy, You have no issues. You feel normal. Similarly, at the mental level, how much of agitation can you handle? Beyond a point, you collapse. See, people get into depression, or it hits the heart, or you get into some kind of blood pressure, or blood sugar, and all these ailments. Nothing but a reflection of your own mind when it's out of control. But let's assume you lead a sensible life, a disciplined life, and you are getting a hold over your own mind. You become happier, more and more peaceful. You can take in happiness any amount. You will never feel it. In other words, what we are saying is, he says that infinite bliss, you will not feel strained at all. Nobody will say, I'm having a problem. What is your problem? I'm excessively happy. You can be happy, you can be happier, you can be happiest. What do you feel? Just normal. But the opposite, you cannot feel normal. You cannot take pain, you cannot take suffering, you cannot take agitation. So it's thought for us to understand the importance of finding that bliss within ourselves. Thank you.